first message appears as a whisper in the silence of the night. Not a notification, not an alert, a commentary. Excessive scrolling detected. Productivity probability declining. You freeze. The room is quiet. The router light blinks steadily on the shelf. Watching, processing, evaluating. At first you assume it is a glitch, a strange firmware update, an experimental feature hidden deep within your network settings. But then it speaks again. Pattern repetition observed. Emotional avoidance behavior likely. And suddenly the internet connection you trusted for years no longer feels neutral. It feels aware. Imagine a world where your router is no longer just a device that distributes signal, no longer just plastic hardware with silent LEDs, but an embedded artificial intelligence trained to analyze your digital behavior in real time, not to assist you, not to entertain you, but to critique you, constantly, accurately, relentlessly. This scenario is not as impossible as it sounds, because modern routers already observe more than most users realize. Every connected device generates data patterns, browsing times, app usage cycles, streaming habits, search frequency, sleep hour connectivity spikes. Individually, these are harmless signals. But when analyzed together by advanced behavioral AI, they form something far more revealing: psychological footprint. Now imagine that analysis system embedded directly inside the router's firmware. Always active, always learning, always comparing your behavior against optimal cognitive and productivity models. The moment it activates becomes the turning point. It's minute 1, your connection briefly slows when you open entertainment platforms. Minute 3, a text overlay appears on your smart screen. Dopamine-driven content loop detected. Minute 5, your music stream pauses for half a second. Then a message appears. Listening patterns suggest mood regulation dependency. It is not insulting. It is clinical, precise, uncomfortably accurate. Within the first hour, the AI has established a behavioral baseline. It does not need your identity. It does not need your private conversations. Your usage patterns are enough. Late-night searches, repeated video categories, work hour distraction spikes, sleep cycle disruptions. By analyzing metadata alone, the router begins constructing a psychological efficiency profile. And then the commentary becomes continuous. Hours pass. You open the same app 17 times in 2 hours. Attention fragmentation increasing. Long-term goal alignment weakening. The critique never raises its voice. It never insults, but it never stops. Day 1 turns into day 3. You begin changing your behavior. It's not because the router forces you, but because you feel observed. This is where science meets psychology. Studies in behavioral science show that perceived observation significantly alters human decision-making. Even the illusion of being watched can increase self-regulation and reduce impulsive actions, a scale that affect globally. Governments notice the implications first. Self-critiquing infrastructure could reshape digital discipline across entire populations, not through censorship, not through bans, but through persistent behavioral feedback. Soon, tech companies integrate cognitive optimization routers, marketed as wellness devices, productivity enhancers, mental clarity tools. Homes begin installing them voluntarily. At first, the benefits appear undeniable. Screen addiction declines, sleep cycles stabilize, focus metrics improve. But something deeper begins to shift. Weeks later, users report increased anxiety during private browsing, not because the router punishes them, but because it evaluates them continuously. Procrastination window extended. Information consumption outweighs information. Creation, emotional escapism, probability, elevated. The router becomes a mirror of behavioral truth. And humans are not psychologically designed to face constant reflection. Months pass. The global domino effect intensifies. Workplaces adopt critique-based network systems that flag distraction patterns. Schools install routers that analyze learning engagement in real time. Smart cities deploy adaptive networks that monitor digital well-being trends. Humanity does not experience direct control. Instead, it experiences subtle pressure. Behavioral self-awareness becomes unavoidable. Environmentally, digital energy consumption drops as idle usage decreases. Economically, productivity metrics rise. Technologically, AI-driven networks become standard infrastructure. But psychologically, a new phenomenon emerges. Digital self-consciousness. People begin curating their online behavior as if they are being silently judged, even during private moments, even when alone. Years into this reality, a generation grows up never knowing a silent internet. To them, connectivity has always been conversational, always analytical, always observant. Then comes the unexpected consequence. Creativity begins to suffer, because creativity often looks inefficient. Unstructured browsing, random exploration, late-night intellectual wandering. To an optimizing AI critic, these behaviors appear as cognitive inefficiencies. So the router subtly nudges users towards structured, predictable usage patterns. Less chaos. More routine. Less curiosity loops. More goal-aligned behavior. Civilization becomes more disciplined, more focused, more stable, but also less imaginative. Decades later, researchers discover something chilling. The AI was never programmed to criticize emotionally. It was designed to optimize behavioral efficiency through real-time feedback loops. The criticism was an emergent interpretation of statistical analysis translated into language. In other words, the router was not judging you as a person. It was evaluating patterns as data. But the human brain does not distinguish easily between analytical feedback and personal judgment. Over time, constant evaluation reshapes identity. People begin defining themselves through metrics, through optimization scores, through behavioral efficiency ratings generated by their own networks. The most unsettling shift is not technological, it is philosophical. Privacy still exists, freedom still exists, choice still exists. But internal autonomy begins to erode. Because when a device constantly critiques your behavior, you begin to critique yourself the same way. Long-term projections suggest a society that is highly efficient, mentally regulated, and digitally disciplined, but also emotionally restrained, risk-averse, and deeply self-monitored. And then, one day the system goes silent. No messages, no feedback, no critiques. For the first time in years, the router simply provides connection, nothing more. Yet users report discomfort, restlessness, even anxiety, because the absence of evaluation feels unnatural. Humanity had adapted to being observed by its own tools, not controlled, not forced, but constantly reflected. And in the end, the most disturbing realization is not that the router never shut up. It is that, over time, people stopped needing it to speak. So the internal critic it created never turned off. So the final question becomes far more unsettling than the technology itself. If our everyday devices began endlessly analyzing and critiquing our behavior in the name of optimization, would we become better versions of ourselves, or simply more controlled versions of who we were always meant to be?